No one warned me about the walls. Not the landlord, not the neighbors, not even the previous tenant, who left in such a hurry she forgot a suitcase and a pair of boots in the closet. The apartment was on the second floor of an aging Victorian house, split into 5 uneven units. The ceilings were high, the rent was cheap, and the place had the kind of charm that landlords call vintage and renters call haunted, but livable. I moved in on the 1st of October. It had rained that day. Not the hard kind of rain that sends people running, but the soft kind that seems to whisper down from the clouds, more mist than drops. The floor creaked beneath my boxes as I carried them in. The wallpaper was yellowed and curling at the corners, and the scent of mothballs and damp would lingered in every room. But it was mine, Unit 2, the brass number read on the door, a single deadbolt, a mail slot crusted with rust, and a peephole that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years. Still, I was excited. It was the first place I'd lived on my own since college. That first night, I fell asleep to the sound of rain tapping against the window. But just past midnight, something else woke me. A knock. 3 soft taps, not at the door, not at the window, but from inside the wall. At first, I thought it was the pipes. Old houses do that, rattle, groan, whisper, but the knocks came again, 3, slow, deliberate, as if someone was standing on the other side of the wall with a single finger, gently tapping. I sat up, staring at the wall across from my bed. There was no radiator, no pipe, no closet. Just the flat, faded wallpaper with a repeating pattern of lilac and curling vines. Tap, tap, tap. Then silence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was the neighbors downstairs, or the house settling. I had more important things to focus on: getting groceries, finding where the nearest laundromat was, setting up my Wi-Fi. But around noon, I noticed something odd. The wall where the knocks had come from felt colder than the others. I pressed my hand to it, freezing, as if it were an exterior wall, though I knew it wasn't. I checked the blueprint the landlord had given me. It should have just been empty space, a support wall, nothing more. That night, the knocks came again, always 3. Always after midnight. I recorded them with my phone. Played it back in the morning. Nothing. Dead silence. I texted the landlord. Me. Hey, weird question. Is there anything in the wall of Unit 2? Like animals or ducks? Landlord. No. Solid support wall. Nothing behind it. Me. Okay. Thanks. I didn't mention the knocking. On the 3rd night, I made a mistake. I knocked back. 3 quick taps. I stood there, hands still against the wallpaper. Nothing happened. No knock in return. No creak. No whisper. Relieved. I went to bed. At 3:17 a.m. I woke up gasping. Not from a nightmare. From the sound. Someone breathing. It was coming from the wall. Raspy, slow, deliberate inhales and exhales. Close. Just on the other side. Then the knock came. Not gentle this time. Hard. Bang. 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 I screamed. Grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, scanned the room. The wall had changed. The wallpaper was torn in one spot, revealing not plaster or wood, but something that looked like flesh. Pale, veined, twitching slightly as if it were breathing in sync with the sounds. I backed away, shaking, and the knocking stopped. So did the breathing. The wall looked normal again. Torn, yes, but just old wood and insulation behind it. I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning, a note was slid under my door. In sloppy handwriting. Don't knock. Ever. The wall listens. The first step is the most important. No name. No signature. I asked the other tenants. A middle-aged woman in Unit 1. To college kids in Unit 3. A retired man in Unit 4. No one had slipped the note, they claimed. No one had heard knocking. The man in Unit 4, Mr. Halvorsen, just stared at me too long when I mentioned it. Don't go tapping where you don't want an answer, he said finally, and shut his door. That night, I laid in bed, eyes wide open, flashlight in hand. The knocking didn't come. The wall was quiet. Still cold, still strange, but silent. At 3:33 a.m. my phone buzzed. A message, unknown. It's inside now. I dropped the phone. Something moved under my bed. A long, slow scraping sound, then a whisper, so faint I thought I imagined it. Step 1 was for your safety. I didn't sleep. Morning couldn't come fast enough. And when it did, there was another note under my door. Step 2 comes tonight. Do not ignore it. Asterisk, but before nightfall, I decided I had to learn more. I returned to the library and searched archives for the address. Nothing in news reports, but an old ledger in the town records office showed that Unit 2 had a string of renters who never stayed longer than 6 months. I asked the clerk about it. She peered at the entry, frowned. That's the house where the boy disappeared, right? Years ago. Vanished inside. No sign. Parents thought he ran away, but the cops. They never closed the case. Back home, I pulled out my flashlight. And I finally dared to do something reckless. I peeled the wallpaper away. Underneath was writing. Not paint, not pencil. Carved, scratched into the wood in dozens of tiny desperate letters. Don't knock. IT hears. IT learns. It lies in the wall. And in the center, step 2. If IT repeats your name, don't answer. My blood went cold. And that night, as the clock struck 2 a.m., the thing in the wall spoke. It said my name 3 times. Double quotes Jason. 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 I didn't answer, but I swear to God I could feel its breath on my neck. Asterisk, the third night in the house, Eli couldn't sleep. It wasn't just the strangeness of being in a new place, it was the sound. Faint at first, like a branch brushing against the siding, but it wasn't windy. The trees stood still. The air outside was thick and dead. Then it came again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from inside the walls. He sat up in bed, heart hammering. The digital clock beside him read 3:14 a.m. The glow of the numbers cast an eerie red tint across his sheets. For a moment, he just listened. Silence returned. Maybe it was mice, or raccoons. The house was old, early 1900s. Creaks and groans were part of its language. Still, something about that sound felt deliberate. Rhythmic. He got up and padded barefoot across the floor, ears tuned like a predator. The sound came again. Scratch, pause, scratch, pause. Then 3 in quick succession. Scratch, dash, scratch, dash, scratch. This time, it came from the hallway. He opened his bedroom door slowly, and the hinges squealed like a scream swallowed at the last second. The hallway was dark except for the faint glow of a nightlight plugged into the far wall. The old wallpaper, a faded floral pattern, looked bruised in the low light. As he stepped forward, the scratching stopped. His breath caught. He stared at the wall across from the bathroom door. There, just above the baseboard, were 7 thin lines, not cracks, not stains. Scratches like claw marks gouged into the plaster. Fresh, dust curled at the edges. He touched one. It was warm. Then a whisper hissed through the hall. You heard. Emmy. Eli jerked back, stumbling into the wall behind him. He blinked hard. Nothing. No one. The hall was empty. He rushed back into his room, slammed the door, and locked it. Under the covers, foam clutched in hand. He tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a dream, a waking nightmare. He'd read about those. Stress could do things to the brain, but sleep didn't come until dawn began to grey the sky. And even then, it was shallow and riddled with images of walls peeling open like wounds. The next morning, Eli paced the hallway with a flashlight and a notepad. He needed evidence. Maybe writing it down would help him stay sane. The scratches were still there, but now, there were more on the opposite wall. And something new. A faint smell of mildew mixed with copper. He called his dad. Hey, Dad. Weird. Question. Did anything strange ever happen in the house? Like noises in the walls. His father went quiet for too long. Finally, he said. I never liked the guest bedroom. kept it closed most of the time. Why? You know how old houses have stories. That one. Your grandmother used to say something lived in the walls. Something. Just stories. Ignore them. That place has been empty for decades. Probably rats. But Eli heard the tremble in his father's voice. He wasn't convinced. That night, the rules began. He found the first one scribbled on a torn scrap of paper, beneath his pillow. Step 1. Do not speak to it. He stared at the note, trying to remember if he'd said anything the night before. Did. Whispering count. The next night, the scratching returned louder, more insistent. It traveled from the hallway to the kitchen. From the kitchen to behind the headboard of his bed. He pressed his ear to the wall and immediately jerked back. Something was breathing on the other side. And then a whisper. You broke step 1. He started researching the house. It had been abandoned twice. Once in 1947, when the prior owner reportedly disappeared. No body, no trace. Again in 1983, when a woman named Lorna Raines went missing. Local police chalked it up to mental illness and a voluntary disappearance. Eli found a blurry photo in the county records. Lorna had sunken eyes and hands that looked clenched even at rest. The image stayed with him. His second rule arrived tucked between the pages of a book he hadn't opened in years. Step 2. Never put your ear to the walls. Too late. That night, he dreamt of being inside the wall, cramped, curled up, flesh pressed against wood and wires. Something was breathing beside him, wet and slow. He woke with scratches on his arms. He considered leaving, just walking out and never coming back. But his mother had left him this house. It was the only thing she ever gave him that had permanence. And something about it pulled at him. The third rule appeared in the fridge, written in ketchup on the inside of the door. Step 3. It knows when you're alone. Never stay in the house past midnight without company. The problem? He had no one to invite. His friends were scattered. His father wouldn't visit. And he didn't trust anyone in this town. He bought a mannequin from a thrift store. Set it up in the living room. Just in case. At 12:01 a.m. The lights flickered. Then the scratching began again. But this time, it was above him, in the attic. He climbed the ladder, flashlight in hand. The attic was filled with dust and sagging boxes. The air was damp, like something had been rotting. He turned and saw it. A shadow moved across the far wall, not cast by him. Not cast by anything in the room. And then it said, "That's not company." Eli ran. He started sleeping in his car. Every morning, he checked the house, and every morning, a new rule appeared. Step 4. It cannot be burned, buried, or banished. Stop trying. He hadn't even attempted anything yet. But the thing knew what he was thinking. He unplugged every appliance, turned off the gas, hid the matches. The next day, a candle was burning on the kitchen table. It hadn't been there before. He doused it with water. The flame hissed. A scratch formed on his arm slowly, as if written by an invisible finger. "Do not disobey," he screamed. For the first time in years, he screamed like a child. That night, the house felt alive again, breathing, watching, waiting. Eli found the 5th step scrawled in toothpaste across his bathroom mirror. Step 5. Do not speak its name. But he didn't know its name. He never did. Until now. The wall beside the bed began to bulge. A knot of plaster throbbed like a tumor. From within it, faint whispers leaked. Say it, say it, say it. He ran, packed a bag, drove 2 hours in the wrong direction. Then the car died. In the middle of a dead road. He walked until sunrise. Hitchhiked back. The house stood there, unchanged, waiting. And on the front door, written in long, smeared ink, Step 6. Leaving won't help. Eli stood at the threshold, key in hand, heart in his throat. Something moved behind the curtain. It waved. With his own hand, he stepped inside. And closed the door. The house was quiet again. Eli stood just inside the front door, the air thick and unmoving. The same chill he'd grown used to had returned, except now it wasn't cold from outside air seeping through cracks. It was the kind of cold that came from inside something, like breath exhaled from a crypt. His reflection still lingered behind the curtain, no longer moving, no longer mocking, just waiting. He didn't want to pull it back. He wasn't ready to see what wore his shape. Instead, he moved slowly to the kitchen, stepping over the strange shadow that stretched across the floor, a shadow with no source. On the table sat a new piece of paper. Step 7. If you see it, do not run. He blinked. There it was, the final step. But it didn't feel like the end. If anything, it felt like the beginning of something far worse. He spent the day pacing, watching the walls, leaving lights on in every room. Every mirror in the house had been covered with towels. He unplugged every device that could cast a reflection, but it wasn't enough. When dusk arrived, the walls began to breathe again. He could feel it now, constant, rhythmic movement behind the plaster. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It was hungry. Eli turned on the TV, cranked the volume. Static filled the room. No channels, just white noise. Then, through the static, a voice. You looked at it. The screen flickered. The image of his own living room appeared, except he wasn't alone in it. A shape stood near the fireplace. Tall, gaunt, its limbs too long, head tilted too far to one side, as if its neck had forgotten how to be human. He turned off the TV. The fireplace crackled. He hadn't lit it. The scent of burning hair filled the room. Eli backed away, stumbling into the hallway. The walls trembled with the sound of scratching. Scratch, scratch, scratch. But it wasn't coming from within them anymore. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. He ran upstairs, 2 steps at a time, slamming the bedroom door behind him. Locked it, wedged a chair under the knob, piled furniture against the wall. His breath came in ragged gasps. Then the wall bulged again. This time, not like a tumor, like something pressing, trying to push through. He clutched a baseball bat from the closet and stared, teeth clenched. The bulge stopped. Whispers seeped through. Eli, Eli, Eli. He screamed and swung the bat against the wall. The plaster cracked. The wood groaned. Something inside giggled. He collapsed to the floor, bat across his chest, sobbing. This house was winning. Then, another note slipped under the door. It wasn't like the others. It was old, yellowed, typewritten. They tried to bury me. Now I am the house. I am the walls. I am the rules. He stared at the paper until the words began to blur, and then the lights flickered. He looked up. Something stood in the corner of the room, not fully visible, half seen, a smear of blackness, like an ink stain dripping upward. Rule 7. Do not run. Eli froze. He could hear it breathing. No. Laughing. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed him. When he opened his eyes, it was morning, but he wasn't in his bedroom. He was inside the walls. The space was too tight. He couldn't move his arms. Nails and insulation pressed into his skin. Dust coated his throat. The sound of whispering was louder here, like a dozen mouths pressed against the other side of the boards, all telling secrets he wasn't meant to hear. Then a slit of light. Someone was looking through a vent. He blinked, tried to scream. A face stared back, his own. It smirked, and walked away. He came to on the floor of the guest bedroom, drenched in sweat. The wall in front of him bore 7 new scratches. 1 for each rule. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Don't break step 7 again. Eli sobbed, his mind stretched thin. The house was more than haunted. It was inhabited. But by what? He dug into the crawl space behind the laundry room. It was tight, filled with old insulation, but something glinted at the back. He reached a metal lockbox. Inside, newspaper clippings, Polaroids, a black book with brittle pages, notes written by previous occupants, desperate scrawlings. The walls are alive. Don't trust the reflections. It remembers everything. One page stood out, titled, The 7 steps. It was nearly identical to what he had found, except there was an 8th, step 8. When all else fails, become the house. Eli dropped the book. The floorboards beneath him sighed. That night, he didn't run. He didn't hide. He set a chair in the middle of the living room, sat, waited. The thing emerged from the hallway, crawling from the wall, boneless and fluid. It took its time, each movement deliberately and natural. When it stood before him, it whispered, "Are you ready?" He nodded. "I can't leave, can I?" It shook its head, slowly. "But I can stay." It offered its hand. He took it. Pain, cold, memory, time all flooded him at once. He saw the others. Lorna, the man from 1947, the dozens who came before. He saw himself. Then he saw nothing. The house is quiet now. Real estate listings say it's charming, classic, full of character. The neighbors don't hear anything anymore. No scratching, no screaming, just the occasional flicker of lights. The sense of being watched. A new couple moved in last week. They found a note on the kitchen table. Step 1. Do not speak to it. Asterisk. The new couple, Jamie and Yor, were all smiles as they pulled into the cracked driveway. Their car was weighed down with boxes, plants, a cat carrier, and the hopeful clutter of a new beginning. The sun was low, casting the house in amber light, which made the peeling paint and bowing gutters seem almost quaint rather than neglected. Jamie stepped out and took a long, satisfied breath. "Smells like freedom," he said. Nya rolled her eyes, but smiled. "Smells like mildew, but okay." They'd bought the place dirt cheap and old Victorian in a quiet neighborhood just outside of town. Needed work, sure, but it was theirs. A place to start over. No more apartments. No more upstairs neighbors stomping at midnight. No more landlords ignoring broken faucets. Inside, the house was cold. Neil noticed it first. Why is it so chilly? We're in July. Big houses take a while to hold heat. Plus, it's been empty for a while. Probably needs time to, warm up. He said it like the house was alive, and it was. Just not the way he thought. They unpacked 4 hours, the sound of movement echoing strangely through the halls. Sometimes it bounced back in ways that didn't make sense. Footsteps sounded slower, heavier. A thump upstairs when they were both in the kitchen. Jamie dismissed it. Old houses creak. That's part of the charm. At sunset, they finally sat on the couch, exhausted. The cat, Bobo, refused to leave his carrier. His fur was puffed, eyes wide. Guess he's not a fan yet, Jamie said. He'll come around. But Bobo wouldn't, not ever again. That night, after pizza and cheap wine, they started a fire in the fireplace and collapsed into bed. The bedroom still smelled faintly of something earthy like moss and wet wood. Jamie assumed it was from the crawl space. Neil lay awake staring at the ceiling. Do you hear that? Jamie groaned. What now? Scratching. Like, in the walls. He paused, then listened. Faint, barely perceptible. A rhythm, scratch, 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 mice. He offered, sounds bigger. I'll check it in the morning. But by morning, Jamie would forget he ever said that. At 3:03 a.m. Neil woke up. The room was dark, too dark. The kind of darkness that pressed against her eyelids even when they were open. Jamie was asleep beside her, breathing slow and steady. But the scratching was back. Louder now. It moved. From the far wall to the ceiling to the foot of the bed. She held her breath. A low voice whispered from inside the wall. Step 1. Do not speak to it. Neil clutched Jamie's arm. Jamie. Wake up. Wake up. He stirred grudgingly. What is it? Before she could answer, the scratching stopped. Just silence. And then 3 knocks on the wall. Knock. 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 Jamie sat up. Okay. What the hell was that? They turned on every light, checked every room, every closet. Nothing. Bobo was gone. His carrier lay open in the hallway. No sign of him. just a trail of tufts of black fur leading toward the basement door. It was open now, though neither of them remembered opening it. "I think he just ran off to explore," Jamie said, though his voice lacked conviction. Newell shook her head. "No, he wouldn't leave that carrier unless he was thrown out." They didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, they found the note, folded neatly, placed directly on the stove burner. Neither of them had seen it the night before. Step 2. Don't scratch back. "Is this a joke?" Newell said, her voice rising. "Somebody left this here. This is someone's idea of a prank." Jamie looked pale. "How would they get in?" "We locked everything." She examined the paper. It was old, typewritten, fragile, like it had been folded 4 decades. That day, they searched the house from attic to basement, found old things, a rusted tricycle in the attic, mildewed books, a wardrobe full of clothes that didn't belong to anyone they knew. In the basement, cobwebs and damp hair, and the lingering smell of burnt hair, but no Bobo. No explanation. That night, the house was colder. Jamie turned the heat on full blast. Nothing. The vents groaned, then went silent, like the house was holding its breath. They fell asleep eventually, huddled close. The fire downstairs burned out without them noticing. At 2:22 a.m. Newell woke again. This time, it wasn't the scratching. It was the sound of the mirror. She sat up and stared at it. The glass rippled. She blinked, thinking she was imagining it. Then, the mirror bulged, just slightly, as if someone was pressing against the other side. Then came the whisper. Step 3. Never look directly at its eyes. She screamed. Jamie leapt up, turned on the light. The mirror was fine, just a mirror, but the wall beside it now bore 3 thin scratches. Fresh. Deep. Too high for a person to reach. They slept in the living room that night, on the floor, under blankets, but the scratching followed, and the whisper came again. "You looked." Newell didn't reply, because even in her fear, she remembered step 1. Don't speak to it. They visited the real estate agent the next morning. Did anyone ever mention weird things happening there? Any previous owners have complaints? The agent blinked. "Well, it's an old house. They all have quirks. But no, nothing official." Jamie leaned in. "We found notes. Like rules." The agent's face changed slightly. Not surprised, just tired. "If you're not happy, we can discuss an early listing." "Wait. You do know something. Let's just say that house has history, but so do all houses." She handed them her card, a bit too quickly. "Call me if it gets worse." That night, Jamie set up cameras. 1 in each room. He wanted proof, wanted to catch whatever was happening. If this is some elaborate prank, we'll find out. He didn't find out, because the next morning, all the cameras were smashed. Except one. It showed Jamie and Newell asleep in bed. Then the video glitched. The screen darkened. A figure appeared beside the bed. Long. Boneless. Its face, just an echo of a face, mouth too wide, eyes completely black. It leaned down. And whispered into Near's ear. The camera cut out. They left the house for the day, but the house did not leave them. That night, when they returned, 7 scratches adorned the front door, and the house was breathing. The morning light was dim when it crept through the torn edges of the living room curtains. Jamie hadn't slept. Newell dozed in fits, wrapped into blankets. The bags under her eyes shadowed purple. The air in the house was heavy now, thick like fog, like tar. The sort of air you breathe only once before it becomes part of you. Neither of them wanted to talk about the footage. Neither wanted to talk about the thing with the boneless limbs and the mouth that bent around words like they weren't meant to be spoken by anything human. Instead, they made weak coffee and stared at the floor. "It left 7 marks," Jamie said finally, staring at the door. Newell looked up. 7 scratches, 7 steps. She nodded slowly. "We've only heard 4. Jamie rubbed his face. "Then that means we're not done yet." At noon, they visited the county archive. The house was over 100 years old, passed down, bought cheap, resold again and again. But no full ownership records lasted more than a year. Everyone left or disappeared. An old librarian leaned over the desk as they combed through records. "You're looking at 113 Caro Street?" she asked quietly. They nodded. She looked around before whispering, "My sister lived there, back in the 70s. She lasted 8 days. Came out bald, eyes turned white. Kept repeating something like it was a prayer. 7 steps, 7 signs, 7 scratches. They locked her up. She died in a sanatorium. Never spoke again." Jamie paled. "Did she leave anything behind?" The librarian nodded. "A journal. But you won't like what's in it." They read it that night. Every page scrawled in looping script, smudged, as though written with bleeding fingers. Step 4. Never try to record it. It breaks what sees. Step 5. Don't leave the house after the knocks begin. It follows. Step 6. It can use your voice. Don't trust anything it says. Step 7. The final rule. Burn the walls, all of them, before it walks through. Jamie read the last rule twice. Burn the house. Newell looked up the wall, the one behind the couch. The one with a new set of scratches. Fresh, still oozing black. They bought gasoline at night, buckets of it, matches, a crowbar, but the walls had changed. They pulsed when Jamie touched them, like skin over muscle. He cracked a section open in the hallway. Behind the drywall wasn't insulation, it was something else. Flesh, not human, veined, breathing. Newell screamed. The wall moaned. "Do it." She yelled. He poured the gasoline. Strike, spark, fire. It caught slowly, like the house was resisting. But then it roared to life. The screams started immediately, not from them, from the thing, high-pitched, warped, echoing from every surface. You looked, you scratched back, you broke the rules. They ran through the flames, down the porch, into the street. The neighbors came out, confused. The fire roared, but the firemen never found a source. They claimed the house collapsed in on itself within minutes, like it was hollow, or had never been real. The ground beneath was black, charred. The city fenced it off. But sometimes, at night, Newell hears the knocks. Far away. In the pipes. In hotel walls. In her dreams. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then a whisper. Step 8. Begins when you tell someone the story. They didn't speak of the scratches. Not that night. Not in the morning. Jamie wanted to pretend it was vandalism. Newell was too drained to argue. But deep down, they both knew the house had marked them. Step by step. That day, they packed everything. They didn't discuss it. They moved as if in sync, understanding without words. The house groaned around them, like it resented their decision. Cabinets opened when they turned away. Windows shut themselves. Every light flickered. At 1:07 p.m., the doorbell rang. Jamie opened it to find no one there. Just a folded piece of paper on the welcome mat. Step 4. Never answer the door after sunset. Jamie looked at his watch. 1:07. It's not sunset, he muttered. It doesn't care. Newell whispered behind him. They loaded boxes, tossed clothes into bags. Jamie found a neighbor willing to lend them a truck. Bad vibes from that place, the man said, helping Jamie lift a lamp. Nobody lasts long in that house. Jamie froze. What do you mean? The neighbor shook his head. Just weird history, old stories. People move in. They leave a week later. You're the first ones to last more than 2 nights in years. Jamie looked back at the house. The curtains moved, though no wind blew. They planned to leave before sundown, but time worked differently now. They loaded the last box. Jamie turned to Nya. Keys, she nodded, checking her coat. Then froze. Her voice was small. They're gone. They searched everything. Pockets, counters, even the fridge. No keys. I'll break a window, Jamie said. He took a hammer to the kitchen window. The hammer bounced back. The glass shimmered like water, then solidified again. What the hell? A scratching sound echoed behind them. Not in the walls this time. On the floor. In the center of the living room, the hardwood peeled back, warping, cracking. A circle formed, 7 feet wide. Inside it, darkness, not shadow. Depthless, pulsing darkness, and from it, the voice came again. Step 5. Never stand in the circle. Jamie yanked Neil back as her foot nearly crossed the edge. We need to go. Now. They fled upstairs, not because it made sense, but because instinct screamed at them to run. Upstairs, the hallway had changed. Longer, wider. The walls pulsed like flesh. The air was thick and wet. All the bedroom doors were gone, except one. At the very end. A single white door. They didn't want to open it, but it opened anyway. Inside. Mirrors. Hundreds of them, all pointed at the center of the room, where Nyo stood. Even though she was still beside Jamie, her reflection was whispering to the mirrors, over and over. Step 6. Burn the 7th note. Jamie grabbed Nia's hand and pulled her back. The reflection turned, smiled, and cracked. The glass shuttered inward. Screams echoed from the shards. Then the house shuddered. Walls cracked. The floor rippled. Something moved beneath them. They fell to the ground. Jamie's hand landed on something sharp. A note, charred at the edges. Still legible. Step 7. If you reach this step, it's already inside you. They ran, out of the hall, down the stairs, through the kitchen. The door opened on its own. Outside, the world was normal. Sunset. Bird song. But Jamie hesitated, because the door was wrong. Not the same door. The hinges were reversed. The knocker was different. He turned to Nyo. She wasn't blinking. Nyo, she smiled, too wide. We made it, she said. Voice echoing. Jamie stepped back. What's step 1 again? Her smile widened. Don't speak to it. Jamie slammed the door shut. Run upstairs. The hallway was normal now. The bedroom was normal. But Nyo was gone. So he waited. And waited. And the wall beside the mirror whispered. 7 steps. One mistake. He picked up the final note and burned it. In the fireplace, the house screamed. And then it went still. For now.